The movie begins with a dangerous prisoner being transported by three security guards. The prisoner's mouth is covered and he's tightly chained, showing just how dangerous he is. Suddenly, their vehicle stops in the middle of a jungle, surprising the guards. The female guard asks why they've stopped, and the driver says he needs to take a bathroom break. As the driver steps out, the female guard asks if the rumors about the prisoner are true. Another guard explains that a doctor named Blay experimented on the prisoner, injecting him with a chemical that was supposed to kill him but instead made him incredibly strong. The prisoner later killed the doctor, his family, several inmates, and even prison wardens before being locked up. Shocked, the female guard listens as one of the guards taunts the prisoner, pulling out a knife and threatening to kill him. But suddenly, the prisoner breaks free from his chains, grabs the knife, and stabs the guard in the mouth, killing him instantly. He then crushes the guard's face with his foot. Terrified, the female guard tries to shoot the prisoner but hesitates out of fear, giving him the chance to strangle her to death. The prisoner escapes, kills the third guard, and heads home. At his house, he opens a chest filled with masks and chooses a piglet mask, symbolizing that he's free and ready to kill again. Months later, five friends travel to a cabin in the same jungle for a vacation. Kate, one of the friends, feels sick and insists they shouldn't have come, fearing an urban legend about a killer in the area. Her sister Sui reassures her, saying it's just a story. Meanwhile, the group jokes about the killer, with one even mocking that they'd cook and eat him if he existed. Meanwhile, the piglet-masked killer is shown slaughtering a man in his shed. His older brother G tells him that a group of girls has booked their cabin and that he should pick one for breeding while killing and eating the rest. Excited, the killer waits for his prey. On their way to the cabin, the girls meet a stranger who warns them not to go there, saying no one ever returns from that place. They ignore him and continue their journey. When they arrive, they're happy and start partying, pulling out drugs to celebrate. Kate, still uneasy, suddenly sees the piglet mask killer outside the cabin but dismisses it as her imagination. They find the cabin locked, but an old man named Hogarth appears, welcoming them and handing over the key. Meanwhile, another group of their friends gets stranded when their car breaks down. Among them is Courtney, who stops to sketch while a couple sneaks into the forest to get intimate. Before they know it, the piglet-masked killer appears and brutally slaughters them, dragging their bodies away. Back at the cabin, the girls are drinking and having fun, but Kate is on edge. She can't shake the feeling that the urban legend might be true and that their lives are in danger. Unable to calm herself, she rushes inside to compose herself. Meanwhile, Piglet watches them from a distance, silently observing his prey. Suddenly, Kate hears a noise outside her window. Thinking it might be Piglet, she cautiously pulls back the curtain, only to find a bloodied victim staring back at her. Horrified, she immediately calls the police. When the officer arrives, he assures her there's nothing to worry about. He explains that the injured man had been hiking in the woods and accidentally fell down a hill. Many people pass through this area, and whenever someone needs help, they always end up at the cabin. The girls believe the story, and the officer leaves without taking any further action. Meanwhile, Courtney finishes her drawing and realizes her sister and her boyfriend are missing. She ventures into the woods to look for them, only to stumble upon her sister's clothes. Panic sets in as she turns and comes face to face with Piglet, who lunges at her. Terrified, she runs and hides behind a tree, but Piglet closes in. She tries to escape but steps into a bear trap, leaving her trapped and helpless. Piglet strikes her on the head, knocking her out, and takes her hostage. Back at the cabin, the girls are celebrating Kate's birthday, drinking and dancing. Someone suggests they share horror stories, and Jude goes first. She tells the legend of Pig Person, a boy with a pig-like face who once lived in the area and had an obsessive love for a girl named Katie. It's clearly a dig at Kate, who is always lost in her thoughts. Feeling uncomfortable, Kate leaves the room. As she walks outside, she runs into the same guy who had warned her earlier. He insists they need to leave immediately because there's a killer on the loose. Just then, her sister Sui appears and questions why they should trust him. He says he's just trying to help and hurries away. Meanwhile, Jude wanders through the forest and finds Courtney's sketchbook. Realizing Courtney had been there, she follows the trail and discovers an old shed like factory. Inside, she finds Courtney tied up. Jude rushes to free her, but Courtney panics, warning her that the killer is nearby. Before they can escape, Piglet enters. Jude hides in the shadows, watching in horror as Piglet forces a hook into Courtney's mouth, tearing it apart and killing her instantly. Jude tries to escape, but Piglet grabs her, knocks her unconscious, and takes her captive. Meanwhile, Kate tells Sui she's overly sensitive and cries over everything, but Sui reassures her that she's her sister and will always take care of her. Elsewhere, two girls are relaxing in a jacuzzi when they spot Hogarth watching them from a distance. Feeling uncomfortable, they yell at him to leave. One of the girls, now in a sour mood, decides to head inside for a shower. But just as she enters her room, Hogarth sneaks in wielding an axe. Without hesitation, he swings it at her, ending her life instantly. Back at the cabin, Kate and Sui decide to go to Hogarth's office to use the landline phone to call for help. When they try to start their car, it won't budge, someone has tampered with it. With no other option, they choose to walk to the office. Alex, another friend, decides to go back to the cabin to check on her girlfriend. But as she approaches, Hogarth spots her and whispers to Piglet that she's coming their way. He tells Piglet to distract her and take her out when the moment is right. When Alex reaches the factory, she finds Hogarth pretending to be injured. He gasps that there's a killer on the loose who attacked him. Just as she starts to process his words, Piglet appears from behind and strikes her head with a hammer, knocking her out. When Alex wakes up, she's tied up inside the shed. Right in front of her is Courtney's severed head. Her heart pounds as she realizes her fate is sealed. She tries to escape, but before she can make a move, Piglet arrives. Without hesitation, he swings the hammer at her head, splitting it open. Meanwhile, Kate and Sui finally reach Hogarth's office, only to find that the landline is dead. Suddenly, the same guy who had warned Kate earlier appears. He tells them they can take his car and he'll help them escape. Desperate, they agree. But just then, Piglet storms in, panic sets in, and they run for their lives. Piglet catches up with Kate and grabs her, ready to kill. But Sui quickly grabs a fire extinguisher and sprays it into Piglet's face, blinding him. She pulls Kate away and they run. Ahead, the mysterious guy stands waiting with a shotgun. Kate and Sui grab it and aim it at him. He quickly tells them he's only there to help, but the girls suspect he might be involved with the killer. They tell him to raise his hands and kneel, then tie his hands. The boy insists he's innocent and came to help them. Sui tells him to take them to his car, and when they reach it, they take the keys from him. The boy argues they're making a big mistake, but Hogarth arrives trying to turn them against the boy, saying he's the killer. The boy shouts that Hogarth is lying and that he's the one working with the killer. Just then, Piglet arrives, grabs the boy, and crushes his skull, killing him. The girls, seeing this, realize the boy was innocent and start running. Piglet chases them, but Sui, exhausted, can't keep up. She tells Kate to run ahead and find help. Piglet catches Sui, beats her unconscious, and takes her to his lair, where he ties her up. Kate, hiding in the dark, sneaks past Piglet and approaches her sister. Sui tells her that breaking the chains is nearly impossible, so the best option is for Kate to go outside and seek help. Kate agrees and leaves. Soon after, Piglet returns with a large knife, cuts Sui's cheek, and stabs her to death. Meanwhile, Kate, while running, sees a police officer and feels relieved. She shares everything with him, but the officer attacks her, saying she should have listened to Piglet. Kate passes out. When Kate regains consciousness, she finds herself sitting at a dining table with Piglet, Hogarth, and the officer. She sees several body parts in front of her, with candles burning inside a severed leg. They tell her it's Hogarth's birthday and that she'll marry Piglet and have his children. Kate refuses, saying she'd rather die, but they insist. They give her a piece of meat, saying their family tradition requires anyone joining them to eat it. When Piglet and Hogarth leave, Kate stabs the officer and Hogarth steals the car keys and escapes. Piglet follows her, but she crashes the car into him and drives away. However, Piglet survives and continues chasing her. Kate's car runs out of fuel and she seeks help at a house. A man points a gun at her, but Piglet arrives and kills him. Kate tries to drive away in the man's car, but crashes. Piglet catches up, but Kate tricks him, grabs his axe, and decapitates him, ending the movie.